Welcome to Tampa Home Talk with your host, native Tampa real estate girl, Katrina Madewell, a full-time, passionate, out-of-the-box thinker, love for home ownership kind of realtor with over 21 years of combined mortgage and real estate experience. Tune in every week at this time for expert advice on everything you need to know about home ownership, finance, maintaining great credit, building wealth, and making your everyday life better, and how you can be financially successful today and tomorrow. Remember, love where you live or let Katrina fix it. Now, here's your host of Tampa Home Talk, Katrina Madewell.
Hey, thanks for joining us today on Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. If you're just catching us on a brand new station today, we're just joining WTIS as well this week, or one of our other local stations, Starcom or Tan Talk Network. Welcome to the show. Every week, we do our best to bring you fantastic guests, and our mission of our show here at Tampa Home Talk, in case this is the first time you're catching us, is to help you keep and maintain great credit, live within your means, and build wealth. And my team and I are passionate about that. So we try to bring you in great guests every week that just kind of tune in with the mission of our show. And obviously anything in and around the real estate space is usually a really good match for our show and the person listening like you. So thanks so much for joining us today. Chris Dunn back there on the soundboard looking at me all crazy. So don't mind my laughing there. And we have in studio today Chris Lombardo. He's rejoining us this week. We had him on about a month ago, and we had a fantastic show on how to buy and sell businesses, and you actually got some great calls from that show.
Yes, I did.
Welcome back to the show, Chris.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
It was a fantastic show. If you missed it, all of our shows are available on a podcast. Just look for Tampa Home Talk, or just search tampahometalk.com on any podcast player, or just search the iTunes store for Tampa Home Talk. So your business, if you want to catch the one on buy and sell businesses, check us out, send me a message, find it on the podcast and listen to that. So that's a great show for the person just to kind of get some information on you and your background. But in case someone's tuning in today and they didn't hear your past show, tell them a little bit about your background, where you come from, what makes you a little bit different, and then we'll dive into where you are now.
Okay, sounds good. Yes, thanks again for having me on. I thoroughly enjoyed the last session because we got into not only the buy and sell business aspect of what I do, but then also, real estate investing as well. So as you know, I'm very passionate about that. And it's all focused around helping people. I had somebody step into my life years ago and mentored me and got me on the right track. We all try to go out and figure things out on our own. And, it's just it can be a real time vampire trying to do it all.
It's a little bit harder to do it that way.
Absolutely. So, I had such a great experience with the gentleman that helped me. So I just said right then, I just committed. I was going to help people, learn how to buy a business, learn how to start a business, be entrepreneurial. So many people are hurting out there. They're fractured. They're tired of their jobs or whatever. So they want to buy a business, but then they jump into something too prematurely and don't give it any real thought. They're undercapitalized and so forth. And on the other side,
which is part of our topic today, right?
Yes, exactly.
I thought a good topic for today's show would be entrepreneur in training. Would
Beautiful.
You agree?
Absolutely.
We also had a great show a while back with Joyce Randall. She's the mind and the brains and everything behind Startup Grind and a lot of those other businesses. You might want to check that one out too.
Yes, absolutely.
So your mentor mentored you for how long, would you say?
Well, it was he really got me up and running with one deal because I had gone out and gotten all the information. People go out and buy books and videotapes on how to invest or how to buy a business, whatever. And that's all well and good. But, I always equate it to like learning how to ride a bike. I don't think anybody can go back in our archives and pull out the video that taught us how to ride a bike or the book.
Or just read a book.
Yeah,
read a book and go do it.
Read a book and go do it. No, it doesn't work that way in real life
That's
either.
a great analogy.
You need someone just take you by the hand, even if it means just, while you're floundering around a little bit, just keeping you from cracking your head open on the sidewalk. I mean, business can be tough. So you need to have that guidance. So if you're going to go out, let's say, and decide, okay, I'm going to invest in real estate. So you can go to these expensive seminars and spend a fortune. You see these.
Which there's a lot of those, by the way. They're like popping up a dime a dozen. I see them everywhere.
All over television. I purposely went out and worked for a few of them. Flip this, flip that, flipping this city, flipping that city. Flip open your wallet, we'll take all your money. So I was determined I was going to go back the old-fashioned way and take people by the hand and guide them through it. So that's what my mentor did. His name was Mitch, and he just said, Chris, just do what I tell you to do. You've got a lot of great knowledge, but you haven't made a dime yet because you haven't learned to take that knowledge and put it into action. Knowledge isn't power.
No, for the person listening, because they might not have catched the prior show, you do offer like an education training, that someone could be familiar and kind of learn the ropes and be the entrepreneur, if you say. But really explain some of the differences between some of these, I guess I could say infomercial, but maybe that's not a good word. But all these places that are popping up saying, join our half-day seminar. We're doing this, we're doing that. And just catching basically what they're doing. What's the difference between somebody in an organization like that and what you do?
Yeah, I think it comes down to fulfillment. They get them in an audience. They sell them on the idea.
Get them excited, get them pumped up.
Yeah, they get them. People buy on emotion. So there's some great speakers / salespeople out there that are great at what they do. Don't get me wrong. They push them to take action. So that part of it's okay if they have the wherewithal and the resources to do it. But then what happens is the balls drop. There isn't somebody that really, they get a mentor. They might come out and work with them, a little bit, but they don't follow up. And so our program is different. It's a real hands-on real estate investing training is one of the topics we cover. I mean, I do teach people how to take businesses, take products to market and buy businesses. But a lot of people want to be, in that flip that house, stuff, whatever.
I mean, you offer a lot of different aspects, but so not to confuse the listener or the person listening, just talking about simply like real estate investing.
Okay.
So people talk about, hey, let's bring this property in, let's flip it, let's make some money. Like walk through the process, what it looks like with someone else's organization and what that would look like with you.
Perfect.
Just so someone has a crystal clear picture and idea listening.
That sounds great. Most of the time, they're convinced that the organization that they signed up with has money to help them go out and buy these properties. Guess what? It does take money. So no matter what someone wants to tell you, to buy a property, fix it up, flip it for a profit, some money has to be used. So they sell them on the idea of OPM, not the drug.
Yeah, and I think they tell them that they
money.
have access to other people's money, and you find the deal.
Well, and then what they find out when they do that is it's there's private money organizations. Some of them are great. I broker hard money. Hard money is used to help people buy properties, but they always want a little skin in the game.
Let me just explain what hard money means for the person listening. Hard money is like if a property has a lot of equity. You can get financing, and believe it or not, these loans are still available. They've always been available, but you can get financing at a higher rate and basically finance a property that typically a bank would not finance.
Exactly.
So perhaps the conditions not in order, or it's not habitable, whatever the situation is.
Well, without at least 20% or more down these days, banks aren't going to finance an investment property typically. So the regular institutional lending is not really the competitor. So, and the reason they call it hard money is because those are hard to fund deals. That's where it came from. And so, yes, they do require a little higher rate, for the payback. But the question is, don't be concerned with how much you pay in interest. It's how much it's going to make you. So you have to do all the math. And so that's what I do. I go out and teach people and walk them through it. These other programs.
If it's temporary, but you're making X amount later, it's a moot point.
That's right. So they might quote you an annualized rate of 18% with 3 points up front, meaning each point's a percent. So that sounds real expensive. But if it makes you $45,000 at the tail end, who cares? Because it's an annualized rate.
Right.
So I coach them to not be fearful of that.
Just calculate everything. You look at the whole picture.
So we walk through from an after repair value, which is in pristine condition. We work it backwards. We work the math backwards. And this is what I do. I do this, hands-on, step by step, so that you don't make the mistakes. I even have an oops factor, a fudge factor built right in case, because
there's always an oops.
There's always something.
Like the other show we did with Justin Savage, he talked about his first deal, how it was a big oops, but then it ended up working out.
Yeah, well, he did luck out on that one for sure. Luck's not a strategy.
Not everybody does, right?
Yeah, that's right. And in this case, compared to answer your question, compared to the other organizations, yes, they'll teach that in a class, but then they don't actually go out there and do it with them step by step. And if they do, it's one time and then they leave them hanging. They've got to go on to their next student because they're doing more events, they're doing more. So we take it slow. We slow it down a little bit. My partner Angel and I come out and work with people hands-on in their town. We identify properties that they can tie up in contract and maybe wholesale them for smaller checks. So they don't have to go in there and fix and flip and do all that stuff. They don't need other people's money. What they're looking for there is to have some buyers in place that want to fix and flip. And we teach them how to get that property under contract, under contractual law. Everything's done right, and it's very lawful. And we get it under contract, And then we make a decision. Is this something we're going to borrow some money from one of these private money organizations and fix and flip? Well, maybe not. Maybe we're just going to sell the contract to someone else that has a little more money to offer us. So we're talking $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 checks.
Right.
But at least it gets some income coming in for these folks while they're working on maybe a bigger project. So we teach several different aspects of real estate investing.
And the important part, and what I want the person listening to catch, is that you're actually hands-on. Like, you sit down next to these people for 3 days?
Well, we actually do a 2-day in person. Now, prior to that, there's several phone calls and prep work and everything. We make sure we just don't show up on their doorstep and say, okay, let's get going. So they're prepared, and we do 2 full days. Well, you know what, Katrina, that's just the foundation.
So they're doing a lot of homework and that type of stuff before you even get there.
Right. They need to prepare somewhat. It's not a ton of work, but we don't want to confuse them. We just give them some basic things to get in place, and then when we come out, we start laying this foundation because, we're building them, hopefully, an investment cathedral here. We're going to teach them a lot of different ways to invest in real estate, but we have to lay a good foundation so that, they have that to move forward with.
I love that you shared that. It's one of the missions of our show here is the building wealth piece, which people ask about all the time. And it's a little bit outside of what I do. Like, we can certainly, we have clients that are like repeat and referred clients. We sell investment properties too, but I certainly wouldn't have 2 or 3 days to sit next to someone and explain everything else. Well, I'm glad I get to bring in somebody like you. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. In studio today, we have Chris Lombardo. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back in just a quick second after our show partner's sponsored ad. Be back in a minute.
Curious what your Tampa home is worth? Here's an easy way to find out what homes like yours are selling for in today's market. Text the word value to 813-377-2775 for a free report on Tampa house prices. We'll send you a free report with up-to-the-minute statistics based on all homes for sale sold in your neighborhood over the last 6 months in all price ranges. To get your free report on Tampa Bay house prices, just call or text the word value to 813-377-2775.
You've heard this before. Interest rates are at all-time record lows. But if your interest rate is 4% or above, you owe it to yourself to call Silverton Mortgage Specialist. Silverton is a direct lender, and the best part about this is that the entire loan process is handled in-house. From application to close, we do it all in the same building, which means that our loans close fast and our clients know what's going on every step of the way. Our contact info is located on TampaHometalk.com under Radio Show. What makes Silverton different? Products. We offer VA, FHA, USDA, and conventional loans pricing. Best rates with the lowest closing cost. Process everything in-house. It's handled right here and not outsourced to anyone that no one can reach. This way we can avoid surprises. Our people are simply the best, and we know you'll agree. What will closing Silverton Mortgage Specialist mean to you? A smooth process, real home loan value, and personal attention from real professionals. Silverton Mortgage Specialists are here to serve you. Visit TampaHometalk.com under Radio Show for all of our contact details. NMLS 109600 is an equal housing lender and Florida and Georgia residential mortgage licensee.
Hi, this is Aaron Davis, owner of Hillsborough Title. Hillsborough Title is a local, family-owned title agency here in Tampa Bay. Our service, strength, and knowledge make us different. We've served Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. From Polk County to the Gulf, Pasco to Manatee, Tampa Bay, we've got you covered. Call us at 813-712-8888 or visit us on the web at thebesttitle.com. That's thebesttitle.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. Thanks so much for rejoining us today. If you're just catching our show for the first time, you can catch us here every week, same time, same place. And all of our shows are available on a podcast. Just look for us at TampaHometalk.com or search Facebook, Twitter. Just look for Tampa Home Talk. And you can catch us on any podcast player, whether you're an iPhone user or a Droid user. Just look for our show title. In studio today, we have Chris Lombardo. rejoining our topic of entrepreneur in training. So we get this conversation a lot, and people ask, well, I want to be an investor. I want to start building my investment portfolio. Maybe they want to take money out of the stock market, or they've, have a little bit of cash they've been saving or whatever. Your model is pretty good because you can sit down with them one-to-one and really kind of go through those details. And if you missed the beginning part of the show, definitely catch it because there was a lot of great information. But what I think a lot of people might be thinking, or the person listening, like, what happens? Explain some of the people that make it and some of the people that break it, right? Like the people that flop, the people that fail with real estate investing. And sometimes maybe just, the program they bought was a bad match, or maybe they had to put a lot more into it than they thought. I mean, because there is time and effort and work, and then you're going to share something else where if you have the money but not the time, we'll share that a little bit later in the show. Right. But what's some of the key differences that you see behind the people when you look at, because you were talking about two people that you just coached about a couple weeks ago in Atlanta, and you had one person that's going to make it, and you have another person that's going to break it. Like you just know already they're not going to go. So what are some of the differences, for example, just in those two most recent examples?
Well, first of all, and this is what's really important to me in our program, they do have to qualify. So we're getting much better at this too. Now, some of the programs that we've mentioned before, where they go to these events and they get all excited, and they get all hyped up and pumped up, they're there to sell them, and that's their job, and I understand that. But some of these people,
so their qualifications are a fee,
basically.
So if they've got the money, or they got the availability on a credit card, which we don't condone, by the way, here at Tampa Home Talk. But if they have it, they're going to sell them the program. Right,
they are, and so then these people, they do have a 3-day right of rescission or whatever, and they get home, and some of them do have the buyer's remorse, whatever, and they cancel. The point is this.
That's interesting. There's a 3-day right of rescission on those. That would make sense.
Yep. And the point that I'm trying to make is basically that, I work for some of these organizations, and I've been out there, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good material. There's some good stuff, but it has to be put into action, and that's where I felt, number one, they were missing. Number two, the person has to be prepared. Their life is somewhat fractured. Their life is kind of, in a shambles, whatever. They really shouldn't be doing this. And when I was selling on those events, I wouldn't tell people, I wouldn't take people that couldn't convince me that they had the time to do this and so on. And the conviction, it takes a commitment. Like we were talking earlier, I break it down. There's 168 hours in a week, and we look at all the stuff that's got to stay in place, and we're not trying to change their lives, but they want a little better version of themselves, and they want to have that little bit of freedom. So I first auger down with 6 different why questions. Why is this the thing to do? Why is this the right venue and the right timing? And if they convince me of that, and I feel really good about working with them, then I do ask the other qualification. Are you ready to invest the time it takes, number one, and then also some money to put in the game? You have to have some skin in the game, because people will quit. See, easily attained, lightly regarded.
Right.
So if they at least have a little skin in the game, but here's the caveat.
It's easy to do. Everybody would do it.
Right. And the caveat is, this is where I really sell the difference. We work with them until they get on 2 deals. And those 2 deals should be enough to pay them back the enrollment fee that they started with, that we required up front, the skin in the game. So they get their money back, and we split the deals. So then we have a decision to make. If we want to continue working with them, or they want to continue working with us, then we do so. And we do joint ventures and continue to build, a little real estate empire in their hometown or whatever. The key is something I heard on your commercial earlier. You help people live where they want to live, right?
Love where you live, or we'll fix it. That's the motto of our show, of our team.
That. And and that correlates with what we say. But you can invest where it makes sense. So, for instance, I just recently co-branded with another larger company that already has a buy and hold strategy in place, and we can put people on deals. And we'll get into this in detail in a minute. But in a couple different pockets of the United States where the cash flow is just super, so they don't even have to. It's a hands-off program. So we've got the hands-on to invest, in their local area. Do some wholesaling, do some lease options, some smaller deals. And then if they want to parlay that into some bigger riches and long-term wealth, we can perpetuate that with another program.
Right. And I know you're so excited to share your new stuff.
I know.
But don't get away from the question. So what I was asking, and this is key, and I think for the person listening, and you're thinking, I want to do this, or I've always wanted to do real estate investing, really pay attention to this, because what are some of the same patterns that you see for the people that don't make it?
Well, they don't really commit those hours. Once we break it down and they come up with 10, 12 hours or whatever they come up with, we sit down and write out a plan. but it takes commitment to that plan, like anything,
So this is an action plan on their part of things they have to do within those 10 or 12 hours.
Correct. And I help them with that. But just like, you're very good at what you do, just like you did a minute ago. You reeled me back in and got me on track. I do the same
answer
thing.
the question, Chris.
That's right.
Wait a minute.
I do the same thing with my...
That's called focus.
Yes, focus. With my enrollees. I make sure that they stick to their plan. And I mentioned to you earlier when we were talking that they leave with an action plan that they commit to. They handwrite it out. And that's their action plan they have to do So the ones that don't do that, they don't commit to it, they don't stay patiently persistent with their plan, they fail. I mean, it's really simple.
So what do you think the differences are? You think they're not willing to do it? You think they don't really have 10 to 12 hours a week and they said they did?
You just said a minute ago, focus. They don't stay focused. They allow all the little shiny objects to distract them, and they chase this program, and then they go over and try to buy tax liens, and they go over here and try to do probate instead of staying just focused.
There's so many things,
Yes,
yeah.
there are. There's 60-something different ways to invest in real estate.
Yeah, there's so many facets to real estate investing. That's why it's interesting. And I would love to create that list of 60 and then, build a whole show and platform and theme around that.
Well, and I was guilty of it early on. And I thought, I can go do this and that. And my wife reeled me in, just like you did a minute ago. Stay focused, Chris. Stay on task here. And once I did, then, I became very successful.
And I think focus is hard for a lot of people. I don't think it's something that most people are naturally born with. I think it's something you learn over time, especially as an entrepreneur, because you have to have focus. If you don't look at it and go, okay, what am I going to get done by the end of the month? And then what action steps am I going to take to actually get this done by the end of the month?
Yeah. Well, it does. It takes you have to schedule your success. You really do. And, let's face it, we are in a very distracting world. There are so many things that drag us away. So I literally ask them, okay, how much Facebook time? How much, are you on this? How long, how often? And so some of that stuff they can give up a little bit of that to get more time committed to real estate investing. So I don't change their whole life. I mean, their church, their family activities, their work, if they're currently working, all that has to stay in place. But then we come up with those few hours that we can work this. And then I ask them to, in writing, give me a commitment. We need conviction. You're going to do this. And
do you ever find that sometimes people are just not a good student?
Oh, absolutely. Like the one I mentioned to you recently. I just knew because she was fighting everything I said. She was shopping. People invoke the tribe. They go out there and they say, "What do you think? I'm doing this new thing." And someone tells them, "What are you doing? That's crazy. You're not that person.
You're changing gears. You did this."
Yeah. Right. And in this case, this lady actually she asked the opinion of a real estate professional that told her very inaccurate information.
Well, it was a new real estate professional, right?
It was, yeah, and it was in another state, and she told her that she couldn't do this. It's not allowed. Only licensed realtors can write contracts, and that's a bunch of malarkey.
I love the overnight real estate experts that got their license.
Yeah, exactly.
Happens all the time. We see a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
So do the homework. I'm just curious because I know the person listening might be curious. What kind of things are you having people do before you show up and spend 2 days with them? What kind of homework and preparation do they need to do?
Well, number one is that it's called my 168 exercise. There are 168 hours in a week, and I ask them I give them, it's a little form, and they can add to it. There's an other, but I put job, church, family. I list some things. I mean, obviously you need to spend quality time doing those things. So that's one of the things. And then they have to actually come up with those hours and tell me when they're going to work. Because, see, people think they can just work on their day off. And in real estate, just about anything these days, we're in warp speed, aren't we? I mean, everybody's going 100 miles an hour.
People want things now. It's a very real-time generation.
We have to embrace that, but I also coach them to slow people down a little bit. I mean, you can't do this all on Tuesday and expect to get back to people next Tuesday. Forget about it. So you got to at least do a little something every day, if not every day, every other day. So we need to have a consistent effort. It's what you do daily that helps you get results. Otherwise, at the end of the week or month, we're going to have a bunch of reasons. And life does happen while we're making plans. We all get that. Things can happen, but we got to get back on the rail.
That's how you adjust your plan. That matters.
You got to get back on the bike. You got to get back on task.
So first things first, you're looking to see where they're spending their time to probably make sure if they even have the time to do it.
Yep. And then I do need to find out, whether they're going to have the ability to reach out, more than 5 miles from their area. So if they have, maybe they have 20 hours, we can stretch it a little bit. But if they say I have 8 hours, 10 hours, then we're going to stay pretty focused close to their place of residence, for windshield time and so forth. So if they have someone already in mind, for instance, a realtor they might want to work with, I ask them, are they investor friendly? Oh, you have an attorney. You already have an attorney in place. Great. Does he work with real estate investors? That's different than working with licensed people. So investors,
very different.
We think a little differently.
Just the difference between an attorney that does general law and like a real estate attorney, very big difference. Yeah. Very big difference.
And I ask the attorneys when I help my students interview them if they're the right person or the right fit. Do you currently own property? Are you an investor? I want an investor / attorney,
Right.
that kind of person. So the team members start to come in place, and I help them with that as well. But I don't ask them to do too much because they can get really confused and get kind of off kilter. So we come out and set the foundation in those 2 days.
And people will learn hands-on. I mean, as long as there's that old saying, when the teacher's ready, the student will appear. Or when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. There you go. Leave it to me to say it backwards.
Ready for the lesson, the teacher appears. Yeah. Like that.
When the student's ready, the teacher will appear.
Right.
I got it right.
You're right. They have to be ready.
So when we come back in a second, we're going to talk about what markets are projected to grow, just because that's an interesting topic. But we'll also jump into the conscious creator, which is some of the new things that you're involved in, and you're a networker. So, of course, by default, you're involved with great things like that. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. This is your host, Katrina Madewell. In studio today, we have Chris Lombardo, and we're talking about entrepreneurs in training, how to invest, buy, and learn how to get in the real estate game. Back in a minute.
You're buying a house. Congratulations. So while you're worrying about the paperwork, leave the moving part to us. We're Woody & Sons Moving Company, a Florida licensed and insured mover, and we offer same-day written estimates. Plus, no sneaky mileage, stairs, or additional stop fees. All we ask is that you check out our great ratings on Google and Angie's List, then go to woodyandsons.com to learn more. Whether you need a full-service pack and move or some extra hands, at Woody & Sons Moving Company, we move you.
Okay, so you guys know we're big Dave Ramsey fans. We're on the endorsed local provider list. So some of our clients will opt to self-insure. And I know that Dave talks about self-insure. Paula, how does that affect people from a homeowner standpoint for our insurance tip of the day?
Got a lot of folks that say, if my place burns down, I can rebuild it. I'm pretty well set now. But what do I do? What if the child in my neighborhood falls in my yard and the parents want to sue me? There is a liability-only policy. We have policies for you that are just for liability on your property. They usually come in $300,000, $500,000 up to $1 million increments, and they're very affordable. I actually just wrote one today for a gal, $1 million general liability, and it's only about $500 a year. And she was ecstatic because she's been self-insuring forever, and she didn't even realize that was out there. So there is liability only, very affordable for all you folks out there that want to self-insure, because it's really hard to self-insure against that lawsuit coming your way.
Excellent insurance tip of the day. Thanks, Paula.
You've heard this before. Interest rates are at all-time record lows. But if your interest rate is 4% or above, you owe it to yourself to call Silverton Mortgage Specialist. Silverton is a direct lender, and the best part about this is that the entire loan process is handled in-house. From application to close, we do it all in the same building, which means that our loans close fast and our clients know what's going on every step of the way. Our contact info is located on TampaHometalk.com under Radio Show. What makes Silverton different? Products. We offer VA, FHA, USDA, and conventional loans pricing. Best rates with the lowest closing cost. Process everything in-house. It's handled right here and not outsourced to anyone that no one can reach. This way we can avoid surprises. Our people are simply the best, and we know you'll agree. What will closing Silverton Mortgage Specialist mean to you? A smooth process, real home loan value, and personal attention from real professionals. Silverton Mortgage Specialists are here to serve you. Visit TampaHometalk.com under Radio Show for all of our contact details. NMLS 109600 is an equal housing lender and Florida and Georgia residential mortgage licensee.
Welcome back to Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. In studio today, we have Chris Lombardo, and we're talking about entrepreneurs in training and how to kind of build this gateway into real estate investing. So everyone's seen all the real-time reality TV shows, flip this, flip that, the HGTV. I mean, there's so many of them,
Yep.
and they do well, right? Especially on dedicated channels like that.
Yep.
So, but recently, and we had you in the studio before, we talked about how to buy and sell a business because that's a facet to what you do, but you also do a lot of hands-on, one-on-one training with people to teach them how to become successful in real estate investing. You'll work with them or side by side, but you want them to, be able to get back out of it what they put into it, which is interesting. And most places I would imagine don't guarantee that or really have that set up as their strategy. Like, let's help you recoup the money you put in so that you can also learn how to go make money.
Yeah. Now, there's one word there that I want to catch you on because I can't guarantee anything because it's up to them.
Wrong word.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all right. It's up to them. They've got to get to work a little bit. So.
They've got to put the effort into it, but you've seen plenty of cases where someone, if they put the time in, they're going to easily get back what they put into it.
Absolutely. I have a student right now up in the eastern side of Atlanta. He just bought it and closed on a property at $455,000. It came in. The appraisal is going to be $700,000 for the after repair value. We got him the private money to fund that. He put a little bit of his own money in as well. And he's already got a team on it fixing it up right now. So, I mean, it's going to cost maybe $80,000. That's a pretty good deal.
And you know what? Work with some real estate pros like me because we run across deals like that all the time. And, investors a lot of times can put these things together because, I've had properties where termites are eating the floors. And that's not something that a traditional first-time home buyer is going to buy.
I love that you brought that up because absolutely, I look for people like yourself. That's, one of the reasons we're friends. We have that mindset that, let's watch what everybody else is doing. And if it's still on the market for a long time, there's a couple things that I pass on. If it's a sinkhole property, I mean, I'm not an expert at that. There's some people that do that, but I would probably pass on something.
And we
that's
did
sliding
a whole
into the
show
face
on
of
that. So for the person listening, or if you're wondering about sinkholes, we brought in a Florida geologist and a structural engineer, and that show's also available on our podcast. And that kind of explains the genetic makeup of Florida and what a sinkhole is and repairs.
We're like it's a bed of Swiss cheese that we're on, and those guys are experts at it. So
and there's some that love it. Like there's some people that's all they do is buy, renovate, rehab sinkholes, and run them out.
Pasco and Hernando County, there's 3 or 4. Top of the line. I mean, they've got it down. So I would tap out to their knowledge.
Right.
I mean, I don't profess to know it all by any means. Meth labs out in the western part of the country in particular, and they're here too. But those need to be taken all the way down to the studs. It's toxic.
It's like Chinese drywall. I mean, you have to. It's like a hazmat type thing where you got to rip the whole thing out.
Yeah. So even I would probably pass on some of those. But other than that, I mean, mold, termites, that stuff doesn't scare us. We're like you said, we would jump on something like that, knowing that the after repair value is what it is, and we just calculate, and if the numbers work, they work. If they don't, see the problem with some of the newer students too that come into the business, newer entrepreneurs. They try too hard to make things work instead of just lining up the deal that does work. I mean, they try to fix the numbers. Look, it'll work. It's a 3-2. It's green and it's got a nice tree in the front yard. And I mean, that's just a property. It's not a good investment. So they when they work with us, they learn to discern that here's the after repair value. Let's subtract the numbers, the carrying costs, the repair costs, and let's see if it really is a deal.
Well, a typical investor, like someone that does this, they look for properties, they rehab, they renovate them, they rent them, they flip them, whatever they're doing with them. How many properties would you say they look at before they pick one to run the numbers on?
Well, it's a great example. I do a matrix, and it looks like a picture of a big martini glass, and maybe I put the number 100 on top. I'm not saying they analyze to death all 100, but
they might look at a lot of data and stats.
And so when I'm working with realtors, same thing. I give a criteria. So within our criteria, we're looking at 100 types of properties, and we narrow it down to where we have, say, 25 or 30 conversations, of which we make 6 or 8 offers, of which 2 or 3 get accepted, and 1 or 2 get closed, and the dollar signs trickle down the martini glass. So but that's the matrix. Yes,
it's no different for even a buyer looking for a property. I would say the only difference is investors probably look at it on a much bigger scale because they're not buying with emotion. They're buying based on numbers. A buyer, a lot of times will buy based on emotion. Does it have the size I need for my family? Does it work? Is it in the right school district?
That's okay. You're going to live in it.
Investors don't look for any of those things.
Absolutely not.
So of course, naturally, you're going to analyze a lot more properties.
Well, I've had students that I had one in particular. She was a doctor and she lived in a certain kind of neighborhood, and you can kind of picture. And I told her about this neighborhood that was real close to her, and she said, "I've never heard of it." I said, "It's right over here. It's like 3 miles away," but she's never gone that direction. And we drive into this little town, and you know what she said? "Oh, nobody wants to live here." I said, well, maybe nobody that you hang with.
Well, there's different socioeconomic
that's
classes.
right. There's
and,
plenty of opportunity here for you to make some money. So we have to teach them to think differently.
It's interesting. There's a stat I read, just specifically speaking on doctors, that they're one of the highest paid wage earners with the lowest amount of money like invested and otherwise, meaning they know how to earn a good living, but they also have a big lifestyle. They have big student loans to repay. They have all these things. So, they're a fantastic example of one that should be living a little bit below their means, maybe build up their investment portfolio and then pay cash for that house.
That's right. Well, and that's a great segue because, we've talked about this new direction I've gone with my business, and we're still doing what we're doing. But we also have opportunities for people that don't have the time. Maybe they do have some cash. They're tired of the stock market, the volatility, and we can put them in. We can put them in buy and hold type properties that are cash flowing. And again, it might not be in their neighborhood because where they live is their choice. And that's fine. Live where you want to live. Invest where it makes sense.
Right.
So, like I said, there's some pockets in the United States where these have already been vetted out. These things are cash flowing, and we can just place them in those deals, and they don't have to.
If they don't love where they live, we can fix it, of course.
Yeah, okay.
But so the Conscious Creator, that's the group that you're connected with, right? And so that's interesting because this is like someone saying, hey, I've got the money, but I don't have the time. Right. And so they're finding these ready to go deals. And are they typically in other places or are they where they're located?
No, like I said, typically they're in other towns. Now, there is one exception. There's a city here in the state of Florida that's a very excellent equity growth market. The people that want cash flow, though, they're in other states, but it's okay. They're being managed. It's a check that comes to you every month.
So talk about what's the difference between equity growth and cash flow.
So cash flow is going to be in that $80,000 to $100,000 range typically, and you might be all in for $25,000, $30,000. They'll finance the rest. This company that I'm with now, they'll finance the difference. So you have a private lender financing you. They take care of all the management, the repair, the fix up, placing the tenant in there, and they're in communities that are just little cash cows, and they're not necessarily growing that much in equity, but there's great jobs there, and there's typically a lot of blue collar type jobs where the people are coming, they just want to maybe lease a house with an option to buy. So
every month they're making X amount,
$330, $340, $350 a month, a nice little cash flow, and then there's other pockets of the United States where they're booming. There's huge things going on. There's tons of equity and growth. They park themselves in one of these investments, and there's already equity, and then it's continuing to grow. It doesn't cash flow all that well,
right?
But that's what some people want. They're looking.
So they're like buy and hold, like buy it, rent it, and they're going to sell later.
These are hands-off types of investments. My program is a hands-on. I teach people that really want to learn. They have a few bucks laying around. They want to get busy. They want to start a business. I teach them how to be an entrepreneur. They have to follow my program step by step. It's hands-on. And then there's other people in a different place. They don't have the time to do all that, but they have some cash. We can put them in a hands-off program where they're cash flowing.
Now, what markets are projected to grow? Like here in Florida and otherwise, you mentioned other places in the U.S. also.
Orlando is an excellent equity growth market. That's one of the 5 markets that this company is in. Vegas and Phoenix are also excellent equity growth markets. The cash flowing markets right now that we're in, and these are these are markets that have been studied, vetted. I mean, actuarial kind of research, deep research, and these are the best cash flowing markets right now. There's some people that contend Detroit. I would differ with that opinion, but we like Memphis and Indianapolis.
I gotcha. So what type of research does this company do? Because I imagine they probably spend a good amount of research and pull a bunch of data.
In-depth research. If a large company moves to, for instance, the FedEx company, their major hub is in Memphis. So it's created a ton of jobs, not just with FedEx, but all the other companies that you can think of have warehouses near the airport where the FedEx airport's located. That's the FedEx hub.
Right, mail order places or places that could benefit from
so boom,
FedEx.
boom, boom. They're right close there. They're creating a ton of jobs. So they're looking for that job growth. And, we still are, the rentership society that we're in right now, there's like 43% of households that are being rented right now. So those are great cash
That's
markets.
Such a huge number.
But it's going to change again. It's going to shift in a little while because a lot of these folks are in there on a lease with an option to buy.
Right.
So they've been dinged up in their credit. We do the same thing. I use the lease option strategy in our program as well. because there's a lot of people. They're good people. They've got a nice job. They're hardworking, and they just got a little dinged up a while back. They're bruised. Their credit's bruised.
Right.
And bruises heal. We work with them on that, and then they become homeowners.
Well, we saw so many people, like after the housing meltdown, that went through this. Really good people that lost their job because this was a global type crisis. I mean, we saw people that had the same job forever that were laid off.
Yeah.
I had clients of mine that were longtime clients that moved to other areas within Florida or out of state just to take different opportunities.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting when you look at it from that perspective, because there's so many options there. And I think a lot of those people too will buy. So I'm not surprised that rental number is that high, because I think a lot of these people maybe had to short sale or foreclose or do a deed in lieu in the last previous years, which, there's that FHA back to work program is fantastic for some people like that. And they might not even realize, look, if you were laid off and you can show the hardship with your income being reduced, a lot of times you qualify for these programs.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you deal with this more than I do, but these people that are back on track and they're showing on-time payments, isn't that a huge plus to go to their lender and say, look, I've been on this lease with an option. I put some money up front.
Yes.
And I've got that working for me, and plus I've been making all these on-time payments.
Absolutely. Right? And they're going to look at a lot of things, like depending on how the contract's written. A lot of times, depending if it's a land contract or whatever, they're going to look at what the current rent payment is and how much that housing payment's going to go down to when they refinance it. Right. And likely, and you're probably seeing the same thing, those rent prices are going to, when they own, that monthly housing payment's going to drop compared to where the rental
Sometimes
price
it does.
was.
And that's interesting you say that, because one of the reasons I teach the lease with an option, you can typically get a little more of a premium for the monthly payment, being the rental payment, because I encourage them obviously to pay on time, and of course their intention is to do that. But we give them a little incentive. There's got to be a little bit of a penalty on a rental agreement if you're late. But then there's an incentive that on paper we can give them an actual credit. So each time they pay on time, they're earning a credit. Well, if they don't go through with the purchase and sale, that's fictitious money. It's not an escrow money. But if they do go through with it, then we can help them at closing and knock a little bit of the price down or whatever. But I get a little bit of a premium rent, and they're used to paying that $1,200 or whatever. Then they get their mortgage, and it's only $1,000. So they're in great shape, and they look.
Some of these rent prices are going up too. They're a lot more than $1,200 or so.
Yep.
So do you ever do where like X amount, like $100 or $200 a month, goes towards their down payment?
And again, that turns it into a land contract. It can be construed, if it's a bundled agreement like that, it can be construed as a land contract. The way I like to teach it, especially in the state of Florida, it's very, very fair, both the landlord and tenant. Statute 83, you can look it up.
It should be a charge neutral contract.
Yeah, and so we're very fair with it, and we tell them that, look, if you pay on time, you get this paper credit. So we don't actually put it towards it, because that looks like a purchase and sale agreement. So if, God forbid, somewhere down the road they fail in their payment, it's an eviction proceeding versus a foreclosure proceeding.
Right.
So my attorney guided me. I'm no attorney, but I'm just telling you what she told me. She said, I would prefer you do a lease with an option, separate agreements, completely separate agreements.
Every attorney, I talked to an attorney this morning about that same thing for a different client. He said the same thing. He said, you write the contract, you write the lease, I'll do the option. We'll keep it a completely separate agreement. Beautiful. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. We're going to take a very quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes just to wrap up the show. If you missed any part of it, check it out in its entirety. You can find it, look on any podcast player for Tampa Home Talk, and we're across the web, Facebook and Twitter. Just look for Tampa Home Talk. Back in a minute.
Hi, this is Aaron Davis, owner of Hillsborough Title. Hillsborough Title is a local, family-owned title agency here in Tampa Bay. Our service, strength, and knowledge make us different. We've served Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. From Polk County to the Gulf, Pasco to Manatee, Tampa Bay, we've got you covered. Call us at 813-712-8888 or visit us on the web at thebesttitle.com. That's thebesttitle.com.
Ask me about an inside secret to save several hundreds of dollars on your annual homeowner's insurance premium. Text the word WIND, W-I-N-D, to 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775.
You're buying a house. Congratulations. So while you're worrying about the paperwork, leave the moving part to us. We're Woody & Sons Moving Company, a Florida licensed and insured mover, and we offer same-day written estimates. Plus, no sneaky mileage, stairs, or additional stop fees. All we ask is that you check out our great ratings on Google and Angie's List, then go to woodyandsons.com to learn more. Whether you need a full-service pack and move or some extra hands, at Woody & Sons Moving Company, we move you.
You've heard this before. Interest rates are at all-time record lows. But if your interest rate is 4% or above, you owe it to yourself to call Silverton Mortgage Specialist. Silverton is a direct lender, and the best part about this is that the entire loan process is handled in-house. From application to close, we do it all in the same building, which means that our loans close fast and our clients know what's going on every step of the way. Our contact info is located on TampaHometalk.com under Radio Show. What makes Silverton different? Products. We offer VA, FHA, USDA, and conventional loans pricing. Best rates with the lowest closing cost. Process everything in-house. It's handled right here and not outsourced to anyone that no one can reach. This way we can avoid surprises. Our people are simply the best, and we know you'll agree. What will closing Silverton Mortgage Specialist mean to you? A smooth process, real home loan value, and personal attention from real professionals. Silverton Mortgage Specialists are here to serve you. Visit TampaHometalk.com under Radio Show for all of our contact details. NMLS 109600 is an equal housing lender and Florida and Georgia residential mortgage licensee.
Welcome back. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. If this is your first time catching us here this week, thank you so much for joining us. You can catch our show in its entirety via podcast. Just look for us. Look for Tampa Home Talk on any podcast player. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and across the web where we will post all of our shows. If you missed today's show, definitely check it out because we're talking about the entrepreneur in training and specifically talking about the real estate investor, people that want to look to get into real estate investing and looking at some of the differences between the different programs that are out there. We covered all of that in the first part of the show. And our mission here is to help you keep and maintain great credit, live within your means, and build wealth. And so we love to bring in guests every week that talk all about this. So Chris Lombardo here joining us today, or rejoining us for the remainder of the show. In the earlier part of the show, we talked about your background, how you help people one-to-one, and then you actually got introduced with a company called Conscious Creator, and they could do a lot of the, here I have the money, you take it and run with it. We'll show you how to cash flow or build long-term equity.
Yes.
But they do some other stuff too, correct?
Well, and actually the Conscious Creator platform is more of a coaching mentorship platform for personal empowerment and personal development, which is combined with their parent company, Strongbrook, which has been in business just under 10 years. It's facilitated real estate. The things we were mentioning earlier in the show, that these are properties that you can buy through Strongbrook they're already bought for you. They fix them, they rent them, they lease them with an option to buy. So they've got it all managed for you, and they even help you sell it. So it's a no-brainer, hands-off real estate investment pillar. My pillar is the hands-on approach, where people that want to really learn all the little innuendos and the small techniques of wholesaling properties on cash or terms, and maybe lease optioning the house for a little profit. So we get them going up and running hands-on. Well, then the two pillars in between are personal empowerment and also the entrepreneurship. So we actually teach them how to be entrepreneurs within the system. So I take it from one step and parlay it all the way through so that people can understand that, well, I can really be an entrepreneur. I can start small. Everything's a referral-based business, right? We talked about it earlier.
Right.
And when you can make residual income on a referral-based business, I mean, that's huge. So this isn't selling lotions, potions, and pills. Right. This is real estate which is always a good investment theoretically. Anyways, yeah, and on a referral-based residual income type of business. So there's 4 pillars, and we walk them through each segment. And like we talked about earlier, we've all at one time either looked for or maybe will look for something that makes us a little healthier, wealthier, sexier, or wiser. We're always looking for something to improve our lives.
Healthier, wealthier, sexier, and wiser. I love
wealthier,
it.
sexier, wiser. Yeah. And so, why not just go online and find them? Well, because there's a lot of bad information out there. There's a lot of we're in an information society.
Right.
But I'd like to make the contention that there's a lot of bad information.
Well, there's so much information out there that trying to weed through it sometimes.
Right. So this company has vetted all that bad stuff out and brought in real personal, empowerment type people where you can go into the vault of their website and say, hey, I want to learn from that lady or that man or that couple. And they can pick a topic that they like. It's kind of the Netflix, if you will, of personal empowerment and personal development. And that turns into a business because they share it with their friends and all. But then they also learn the real estate pillars on either side, whether they want to just get out there and work with us in the trenches and really, do the hands-on, or they say, I don't have time for that. I've got some money though.
Cash.
Here, just put me in some cash flowing properties. It's just a perfect fit for our company.
So what other things are they doing? Like you mentioned, for example, you can learn from this couple or this person.
Well, from marriage counseling to different fitness gurus that are out there that are proven, and again, this company hand selects people to be in this vault. So any of you out there that are mentors, coaches, or entrepreneurs of your own, and you want another platform to be on where people will come and see you, and say, hey, that person, they have the program I'm looking for. So you're not just, you're not just mixed in with everybody out there on the internet. You're on a real platform that's growing daily. It's just, it's going global. So, this is just a phenomenal organization.
Well, that's interesting. And I think people always at different times in their life need different things, right? Like you mentioned marriage counseling. So someone listening might be thinking, oh, I got to fix this piece before I can ever do that.
There you go. We talked about earlier.
Or I've got to fix, if you're borderline diabetic and your doctor tells you you're a Big Mac away from a heart attack, then you probably should work on that piece first.
Right. Before we go into real estate investing, let's fix this little part of my life.
Let's fix what's wrong first.
Yeah, exactly.
And you mentioned the mental part too. Like a lot of times people just have the wrong attitude. Do they have someone to fix that too? Or do you know? Have you dove that deep into?
Yeah, they might need some other counseling, but no, we have just about everything for them though. Yeah, that's fun.
And so is this somebody that you're connected with, or somebody that you're connected with through that company, Strongbrook? But you say, or Conscious Creator, Money Core, money exchange services. That's an interesting piece, especially with a market like Orlando. There's a lot of international buyers there.
Right, and Money Corp, to clarify, add some clarity to that, Money Corp is an exchange company, and they'll put them up against any bank internationally, locally, here in the United States, whatever. They have the best exchange rates out there. I've had people come and want to buy a restaurant that I have listed because, we talked about that earlier. I help people buy and sell businesses as well. Or they want to come and invest in real estate. They want to come into Strongbrook and invest in properties. They bring all this cash from another country.
You got to have U.S. dollars here. We don't take the peso.
And so Money Corp will clean it up for them and transition it into U.S. dollars at the best rate that's out there. So, yeah, we offer a lot of ways to help people come in from foreign lands.
Where are you seeing a lot of people from? Where are a lot of the investors?
Brazil.
Lately, you've worked with a lot of Brazilians. And what's the exchange? Ukraine.
Actually, I don't have it off the top of my head. That's why I have some general knowledge.
I can never remember how much it is. That's why you get the money people, right?
2.99 or something like that today. I think it was.
Yeah.
Let's say like the euro is getting more attractive. We're going to Italy at the end of August not because we were going to go anyways, but the money exchange
rate's getting better,
a lot more favorable. Yeah. So I don't stay on it every day. That's not my forte. I have my expertise. That's why I'm involved with companies like Money Corp. They're the experts. I know who to tap into. I know who to refer people to, and they're going to save people a lot of money. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for sharing on our investment piece today. I really appreciate it. As always, your wealth and knowledge. I've always enjoyed working with you. We've done business for many, many years back. So Chris Lombardo here in studio today for Tampa Home Talk, a friend of mine, a friend of the show. And if you miss any part of the show, check it out in its entirety. Just go to tampahometalk.com. We'll post Chris's information there so you can connect up with him. And you can reach us at 813-377-2775. You can call us or text us. 813-377-2775. Thanks so much for listening to us this week on Tampa Home Talk. If you're new to us this week because we picked up a new station, we'll be back same time, same place next week. Thanks so much for joining us today. For this week, we're out.